Okay, so Lively is opposing Wayfarer's Daubert motion to exclude Aron Culotta. Let's go into this. This is not quite as long as Dina Maislin. It's actually about 10 pages shorter, so this video should not be as long, thankfully. Okay, Dr. Aron Culotta is a tenured professor of computer science at Tulane University and holds the Nicholas J. Altiero Endowed Professorship in the School of Science and Engineering. With over 80 peer-reviewed publications spanning social network analysis, natural language processing, and machine learning, he has conducted numerous studies applying computational methods to analyze online perceptions of brands and influence operations. Drawing on his decades of experience and prevailing methodological standards in the field, Dr. Culotta analyzed the online social environment on TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube, concluding that each platform reflects indicia of a coordinated campaign to manipulate online discussion of Miss Lively in August 2024. Defendants do not dispute that Dr. Culotta possesses the knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education to qualify as an expert in the analysis of online social networks. Dr. Culotta's testimony is admissible under Rule 702's reliability and relevance requirements, conducting statistical analysis across large datasets to identify statistical outliers and anomalous patterns is a widely accepted methodology in computational social science. Dr. Culotta reliably applied this methodology to evaluate the social media environment surrounding Miss Lively, employing the same techniques as other peer-reviewed studies to use to detect statistical anomalies across social network datasets. His opinions are grounded in reliable methods and techniques that satisfy both Rule 702 and the Daubert framework. Dr. Culotta's conclusions are also directly relevant to a key factual issue in this case: the existence of artificial, as compared to organic, activity during the alleged retaliatory campaign in August 2024. Dr. Culotta's analysis reflects statistically extraordinary indicia of inauthentic activity regarding anti-Lively content on social media platforms TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube. His opinions that engagement patterns across these three platforms are consistent with inauthentic activity will help the jury to evaluate Ms. Lively's retaliation claims and defendants' denials as to taking any steps to facilitate anti-Lively narratives. Defendants seek to exclude every opinion offered by Dr. Culotta as pseudoscience based on novel metrics. But Dr. Culotta's use of a reliable statistical methodology paired with qualitative observations is admissible. Despite having spent months with Dr. Culotta's dataset, defendants have been unable to identify any defects in either the dataset or the methodology Culotta used to analyze it. Instead, they simply disagree with his conclusions, but arguments that Dr. Culotta drew the wrong conclusions from sound data, reliable methods, and his decades of experience are arguments for the jury. Okay, background. Dr. Culotta's expertise in social network and statistical analysis. Dr. Culotta has nearly 2 decades of experience in the field of social network and statistical analysis. He earned a PhD in computer science from the University of Massachusetts before working as chief scientist at IT.com, where for 15 years he implemented large-scale statistical models of textual and relational data. Dr. Culotta has taught computer science with a focus in social network analysis and language processing since 2009, and has published or contributed to the publication of more than 80 different articles in his field, which include statistical models that he designed, coded, and ran across social media networks such as Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and online review sites like Yelp, Airbnb, and Amazon. Wasn't Lively's one of Lively's PR something to do with Airbnb? Was it Nick Shapiro? I don't know. Like, did he work with? Did this guy Did he cross paths with Nick Shapiro? That is just speculation. I'm sure I read something about Nick Shapiro or one of Lively's PR and Airbnb, and you always wonder, like, do the expert witnesses, have they been recommended because of past work? A bit similar to the all the charities that filed amicus briefs, and then when you looked into it deeper, there was kind of links to not only Lively's attorneys, but Leslie Sloan's attorneys, who is now Lively's attorney. That was just my curiosity going a bit wild there for a moment. He currently serves in several capacities as a tenured professor of computer science at Tulane University, where he teaches and conducts research regarding natural language processing, social network analysis, and machine learning, as a data scientist at Voluble, where he develops data science solutions to analyzing social media for litigation, and in several other community roles, including on the steering committee of the International Conference on Web and Social Media, dedicated to developing computational approaches to online social network data. Dr. Culotta has previously been qualified as a rebuttal expert. Dr. Culotta, Dr. Culotta, social network analysis has, in the instant case, right, Ms. Lively retained Dr. Culotta to assess whether or not there are markers of inauthenticity among the posts or platforms discussed by defendants. After determining which social media platforms defendants referenced in their correspondence for insight into potential platforms targeted, Dr. Culotta conducted his analysis across 3 social media platforms: TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube. For purposes of his report, Dr. Culotta relied on a limited set of documents from the case and more than 60 academic articles and books. TikTok analysis. Dr. Culotta first assessed whether there is evidence of the manipulation of like counts and comment content on TikTok videos about Ms. Lively. For this analysis, Dr. Culotta collected a data set of videos in July and August 2024 from TikTok using Open Measures, a tool that enables researchers to track contributor discussion across social media platforms. Okay. The dataset is comprised of TikTok posts returned by searchers of 4 hashtags directly relevant to the subject matter of the alleged campaign: hashtag Blake Lively, hashtag Justin Baldoni, hashtag It Ends With Us, and hashtag It Ends With Us Movies. Using an automated process to extract publicly available metadata, Dr. Culotta supplemented the resulting dataset of 1,861 videos returned by Open Measures by identifying the top comment, i.e. the top-level comment that generated the greatest number of likes on a given post for each post, and recorded the number of likes for the video and the top comment. From there, Dr. Culotta calculated the number of likes on the top comment as compared to the number of likes on each parent video. Using that metric, he evaluated whether there were abnormal patterns associated with the top comment shares of posts in dataset. For example, whether there were unusually high number of likes on a top comment to a TikTok video than there were on the video itself. Dr. Culotta's statistical analysis measured from a baseline of 9.2% average top comment share among all videos published in August 2024 in the dataset. This baseline shows the expected top comment share among videos related to Ms. Lively, Baldoni, and the film in Dr. Culotta's dataset. Dr. Culotta further evaluated and manually coded the sentiment of each top comment in the dataset to determine whether it expressed one of the following sentiments: anti-Lively, pro-Lively, anti-Baldoni, pro-Baldoni, or unsure/unrelated. A second independent reviewer annotated a random sample of 300 comments, achieving an 80% agreement rate with the initial sentiment coding. Dr. Culotta's key findings as to TikTok demonstrate that 1. Anti-Lively top comment shares were 21.6%, double the baseline, and 2. Pro-Baldoni top comment shares were 11.4%, also higher than the baseline. Dr. Culotta's analysis using a two-sided Mann-Whitney U-test revealed these figures to be statistically significant anomalies in the data. That is, both the anti-Lively and pro-Baldoni average comment shares were a statistically significant deviation from the mean. Dr. Culotta further determined that the average top comment share for anti-Lively comments increased from 1.7% in July to 21.5% after July, and that pro-Baldoni comments increased from 0.5% to 11.3%. Reddit analysis. Dr. Culotta also evaluated Reddit to determine whether inauthenticity was reflected in upvote and downvote behavior captured scores, i.e. the sum of upvotes minus downvotes generated by a post or comment. To conduct this analysis, Dr. Culotta focused on the Foursquare subreddit, the largest celebrity-focused community on Reddit, with more than 2.5 million subscribers during the period of analysis. Dr. Culotta collected all data from the Foursquare subreddit from Project Arctic Shift, a large-scale public archiving project that preserves monthly Reddit data. In all, Dr. Culotta's dataset encompassed more than 9,000 posts and 480,000 comments, which together generated a combined score, that is, the combined score of all comments generated by a post, of more than 28 million. This census dataset, as compared to a sample, provided a robust baseline against which Dr. Culotta could reliably identify anomalous activity. From there, Dr. Culotta analyzed the performance of posts and comments as measured by their scores, published on the Foursquare subreddit during a 4-month window between May 1st, 2024 and August 31st, 2024. Dr. Culotta's analysis of the daily combined comment scores, i.e. the sum of the score generated by all comments from each day in the dataset, across the May to August period, revealed a daily combined comment score on August 14th, 2024, exceeding 650,000. The largest value by far in the entire study period and more than 5 standard deviations above the mean, as reflected in Dr. Culotta's sum of daily comment scores for the study period. Dr. Culotta also evaluated posts with the highest combined comment scores across the entire time period for all of the Foursquare subreddit, observing that of the 9,102 posts published in Foursquare during the study period, 8 posts about Miss Lively ranked among the top 100, including 3 from August 14th. I am losing my voice. All of the August 14th posts in this category were determined to be statistically exceptional, even when restricting the analysis to the 100 highest ranking posts in the entire dataset. Dr. Culotta also observed that 13 comments about Miss Lively or Mr. Baldoni were in the top 100 comments ranked by comment score, and 4 comments about Miss Lively were in the bottom 100 comments ranked by comment score. Dr. Culotta's statistical assessment revealed that the scores associated with 13 of the highest ranking and 4 of the lowest ranking comments are extreme and statistically significant. After identifying the statistical anomalies, Dr. Culotta performed a content analysis to assess what was driving the activity in the anomalous voting patterns in the Foursquare subreddit. Dr. Culotta observed that 23 of 106 posts published on the subreddit on August 14th were related to Miss Lively and or Mr. Baldoni and made up approximately 80% of the daily combined comment score for August 14th. So I take it with this guy, he's going from August 14th. That seems to be like the day he's picked. Dr. Culotta's content analysis further determined that the highest ranking comments from August 14th were consistently expressing anti-Lively or pro-Baldoni sentiment. He also observed that the lowest ranking comments were consistently expressing pro-Lively or anti-Baldoni sentiment. In each case, this demonstrated that content aligned with the stated goals of the campaign was driving the abnormal voting activity on August 14th. Dr. Culotta additionally observed a near 30% decline in upvote data on the little bump. Is it minus 39? No, near 30% decline in upvote data on the little bump post captured by Arctic Shift, yet observed no similar decrease for other posts published on the same day. A finding consistent with upvote count manipulation in light of Reddit's manipulation policies. YouTube analysis. Last, Dr. Culotta assessed YouTube for evidence of manipulation associated with the little bump video of a 2016 interview of Miss Lively by journalist Shusty Flaw. And yes, I am aware of Shusty's video on the data behind this. Dr. Culotta's dataset pulled from the YouTube API was comprised of all comments on the video of Miss Flaw's interview. 34,486 comments in total. Using this dataset, Dr. Culotta conducted a statistical analysis measuring from a baseline reflecting the count of comments mentioning bully before and after 1:30 p.m. on August 14th, when Tag suggested that the baby bump YouTube video be sent to Jed, referring to Mr. Wallace. Dr. Culotta observed that although the baby bump interview initially received very limited views or engagement when posted to Miss Flaw's YouTube channel, both views and engagement increased dramatically starting on August 14th, 2024. And obviously, Shusty has shown the statistics which actually do not support that. So there was like a sharp increase, I think, around the time of the premiere. No, just after the premiere, because she uploaded hers just after. There was a little bit of a like, I don't want to say a little bump, but there's a bit of a bump like in the day or two before the 14th of August. But Shusty actually shows that there was like a bit of a plateau and actually a decline from August the 14th onwards. Which do not support this guy's conclusions. What strikes me, right, is obviously now she's made it public, which is absolutely fine, but Lively is going to be looking at ways to counter this at trial. But also, Shusty can't just walk into the court and state this. Like, she's got to get this in. And Wayfarer are going to have to introduce it. They're going to have to introduce screenshots as well, because to just state, no, I checked my statistics and no, they contradict Dr. Culotta's, Professor Culotta, whatever, Dr. Culotta's analysis, that's going to be determined to be hearsay. So it's got to be entered in as evidence properly, which Lively's team are going to fully object to and throw every objection they can. I mean, I suppose the curious part of me is, because obviously Shusty is in touch with Wayfarer's counsel because she's going to be a trial witness. I don't know why no one didn't ask the question before, like, oh, what do your statistics show? When they had Dr. Culotta's report, because that would have been easy evidence, and they could have got it in before discovery closed. I'm interested to see how they get around some of the technical difficulties there, but it's very helpful. The only thing is by making that point, public, that kind of gives Lively time to work out how they're going to rebut that and counter that, and argue that well, Dr. Culotta's analysis is still this, that, and the other, despite that. So but yeah, it is helpful though, absolutely. It certainly tells us, the public, what we already knew, that there was no smear campaign, and Shusty was certainly not part of any smear campaign. So for that reason, it's exciting. I think I just exercise a little caution, because it's one thing to find it and make that public, which is important, and half of this lawsuit is PR. But there's the whole other issue of getting that in and admitted as evidence. And whilst it may sound obvious that it should be evidence, it's not quite as simple as that. There are processes and procedures to follow, which we're seeing in real time here. The whole point of these Daubert motions and oppositions is purely to say, hey, exclude this expert. If you're not going to exclude them entirely, exclude this, this, and this, and this, because they don't meet the standards required in these rules or these cases. So that is, this is a lot of this now. What we're doing now is attempts to exclude or limit evidence, and technically we're outside of any discovery time now. So I'm sure they'll get it in. Yeah, I'm sure they'll get it in, but I'd have to look into it, because it's not something I am intimately knowledgeable about. Maybe one of the American attorneys will kind of elaborate a little bit on that, but yeah, it's not as simple. I suppose my overriding point is this is good news, and it's very helpful. It's a helpful visual for people, for us, the public. But the practicalities of getting it admitted as evidence, so it can be even discussed at trial, is going to be it's not a given. Okay. Dr. Culotta observed that although the baby bump interview initially received very limited views or engagement when posted to Ms. Flah's YouTube channel, both views and engagement increased dramatically starting on August 14th, 2024. I've read that. I didn't realize that. But yeah, that's not right. But Wayfarer got to argue that. And again, they need visuals, they need screenshots, they need access to those statistics. Which has got to all be verified as well. They can't just take screenshots and submit them. It's got to be all properly verified and opined on, and then Lively's team get a chance to to do the same, assess the authenticity, etc. It's a process. His analysis concluded that the proportion of bully-related comments increased from a baseline of 2% pre-tag suggestions to 5.2% post-tag suggestion, and that the portion of bully-related comments with more than 500 likes increased from a baseline of 3% pre-tag suggestions to 10.4% post-tag suggestion. Argument. Dr. Culotta's expert testimony meets all the conditions imposed by Rule 702. His opinions are the product of reliable principles and methods governing the field of social network data analysis, and he reliably applied that methodology to the facts of this case. His opinions are also based on sufficient data to draw his conclusions, and they will help the trier of fact to determine a key factual question at issue, namely the existence of artificial activity regarding Miss Lively online in August 2024. Defendants do not generally challenge Dr. Culotta's qualifications as an expert based on the knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education that he has accrued over decades. Instead, they argue that Dr. Culotta's opinions are not reliable or relevant based only on their say-so and without support in relevant literature or methods. Dr. Culotta's testimony is reliable. Dr. Culotta's opinions are the product of reliable principles and methods. Dr. Culotta's opinions rely on a layered assessment encompassing statistical analysis, supplemental qualitative observations. Each is admissible and generally accepted as compliant with Rule 702 and the Daubert guideposts. Defendants seek to exclude Dr. Culotta's testimony in full, yet never acknowledge his core statistical analysis. Tellingly, defendants approve of the methodology elsewhere in their omnibus motion, referring to formal statistical methods as demonstrating assumptions and controls which are made explicit so that others in the scientific community can evaluate the research yield accordingly. Dr. Culotta's statistical analysis includes manual sentiment coding, in which a trained researcher reads and classifies text according to predefined categories. This is an established method in computational social science that is routinely employed in peer-reviewed studies, and it serves as a standard by which sentiment analyses are validated. Courts routinely permit expert testimony relying on statistical analysis. Dr. Culotta also provided a qualitative analysis for the social media platforms he evaluated, situating it within the broader statistical trends observed in the overall data set. Qualitative assessment of datasets, placing results from data into context, is a widely used approach to data analysis in computational social science and is regularly deemed admissible under Rule 702. Dr. Culotta's testimony is admissible because he has reliably applied established principles and methods to this case. Dr. Culotta reliably applied his statistical methods and qualitative observations to the facts of this case. He collected a defined dataset, computed engagement ratios and platform metric trends across that dataset, reported observable patterns, and identified anomalous, anti-lively, and pro-Baldoni patterns of engagement on TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube through numerous statistical analyses, a recognized and reliable scientific method. In both his report and his deposition testimony, Dr. Culotta explained the reasons why he applied the methodologies that he did and why those decisions are rooted in his experience and expertise. With respect to TikTok and Reddit, Dr. Culotta identified the statistically exceptional patterns by analyzing native platform metrics, TikTok video likes, TikTok comment likes, and Reddit comment scores, and sentiment coding according to disclosed categories, and applied his coding to the datasets. He was personally involved and ultimately responsible for making the decisions about how to collect the dataset and analyze it both statistically and qualitatively. For example, selecting statistical methods he deployed and engaging with particular posts for purposes of sentiment analysis. Each dataset was provided to defendants, and defendants do not dispute that Dr. Culotta's results can be fully replicated. Additionally, Dr. Culotta concluded, based on his qualitative assessments, that the social media platform data reflects extreme percentage values clustered around certain key dates during the retaliation period. Assisting the jury with understanding complex patterns in datasets that are inaccessible to a layperson but evident to someone with Dr. Culotta's specialized training and experience is precisely what Rule 702 permits. Defendants do not offer their own countervailing expert, but instead caricature Dr. Culotta's analysis and misread industry literature. Significantly, defendants do not address or challenge and thus concede that Dr. Culotta's statistical analyses are a product of reliable and widely accepted principles and methods in the statistical field. They also do not challenge Dr. Culotta's qualitative assessments as an approach. Instead, they focus on the margins, objecting to 1. The manner in which Dr. Culotta's analysis is applied to the data in the form of top comments on TikTok and post-comment scoring on Reddit. 2. His sentiment analysis approaches with respect to TikTok and Reddit. 3. The size of his TikTok and Reddit datasets. And 4. His approach to his YouTube analysis regarding the little bump video. The problem for defendants is that these objections are inappropriate for a Daubert challenge. As explained below, all of defendants' criticisms amount to claimed deficiencies going to weight, not admissibility. And in any event, as described below, none of defendants' criticisms has merit. Dr. Culotta's use of top comment and comment scoring as to TikTok and Reddit is reliable. Defendants frame Professor Culotta's top comment share assessment on TikTok and his comment score assessment on Reddit as invented hocus pocus metrics for which there is no empirical basis. Despite levying the charge that Culotta's method is flawed on many levels, defendants scrape together only one, that there is no scientific studies using top comment shares and comment scores. Defendants ignore that Dr. Culotta's analysis is based on specific approaches to understanding data that are established and reliable, and misinterpret peer-reviewed studies deploying analogous approaches. The relevant question is not whether researchers have used top comment ratios for TikTok research or comment scores for Reddit analysis, but whether Dr. Culotta's underlying methodological approach is reliable. It is. Well, there we go then, that settles that. Dr. Culotta's conclusions are based on objective, replicable, and reliable statistical analysis of various engagement metrics across these datasets. They also ignore that Dr. Culotta's statistical assessments are complemented by qualitative assessments of the data, drawing meaningful percentage comparisons across them. And they ignore that Dr. Culotta corroborated his assessments with sentiment coding, reflecting further agreement for his conclusions as to anomalies in the data. Each of these approaches is reliable and permissible under Rule 702 and Daubert. The academic research that Dr. Culotta considered in connection with formulating his opinion support his approach. The literature reflects the foundational principle that anomalous correlations among engagement metrics can serve as hallmarks of coordinated, inauthentic behavior. The reason is that while it may be possible for inauthentic actors to manipulate one engagement metric, such as likes, follower counts, etc., it is much more challenging to maintain a consistent relationship between related metrics. Each of the articles that defendants discuss deploys an analysis of social media metrics that statistically deviate from the mean or median in order to identify inauthentic behavior, just as Dr. Culotta does here. I suppose one question burning at the back of my mind is all the times that Lively has referred to the smear campaign as untraceable and leaving no fingerprints. And yes, I'm aware that she is just thoroughly abusing words that have been, said in text messages by Jed Wallace or Melissa Nathan or Jen Abel. But she has completely, she has gone over the top, grabbed them as a buzzword and then just gone and repeated them in almost every filing. And yet she's managed to pull out all these experts who've been able to track it down and find it and take its fingerprints. So, yeah. She seems to have dropped her stance that this is all untraceable. Yang et al. Built a detection framework around distorted engagement ratios to identify inauthentic user patterns, analyzing features such as retweets and follower-to-following ratios across Twitter accounts. Kurdemir. I'm not going to go any further with that. Detected cross-metric inconsistencies on YouTube by considering relationships among views, comments, and subscriber counts, which serve as key markers of inauthenticity, classifying those anomalies on a scale defined by standard deviations from the mean. And Yan et al. Evaluated reactions to posts, as does Dr. Culotta, to identify inauthentic behavior when reactions no longer correlate with content quality, reporting results in terms of mean and standard deviation. The foundation of each study is the same one that Professor Culotta, Professor again? The foundation of each study is the same one that Professor Culotta applies, measuring engagement, identifying deviations from expected values, and flagging anomalous patterns as indicators of inauthenticity. Other articles, including those referenced by Dr. Culotta, perform similar platform analysis at a larger scale. Oh my god, I hate having to try names. Defendants criticize Yang, Kurdemir, and Yan, even though this peer-reviewed research deploys the same methodological approach of identifying statistically significant patterns of suspicious engagement in social media metrics. Defendants claim that Yang's value is negligible because of its focus on Twitter spam accounts, i.e., inauthentic accounts. But the heart of Dr. Yang's approach is conducting statistical comparisons to a normal baseline. Dr. Culotta does the very same, quantifying the relationship between two naturally coupled engagement signals and identifying instances where that relationship deviates from expected norms. Defendants also attempt to diminish the precedent set by Kurdemir, even though it conducts an analysis of YouTube via a time series analysis of engagement trends based on metrics of video production and engagement. The study identifies the suspicious coordination of comments as a marker of suspicious behavior based on part on the presence of suspicious commentator behavior gleaned from the ratio of the number of unique commentators in clicks to the total number of co-commentator in the network. By focusing on spikes in commentating behavior, this approach tracks the approach by Dr. Culotta, who similarly conducted a time series analysis of the Little Bump video and evaluated anomalous spikes in comment keywords. As to Yan, the entire study is designed to ascertain inauthentic activity through elevating or suppressing topics through coordinated up or down voting social media posts by identifying instances where voting behavior deviates from expectation based on the content and distinguishing between boosters who systematically upvote one type of content versus distorters who systematically downvote other types of content. So too does Dr. Culotta with respect to his Reddit assessment, where he finds upvote downvote patterns that deviate from expectation in statistically and practically significant ways. Okay. Any acknowledgement in these studies that the evaluation of coordinated online activity is an evolving field with imperfections does not render Dr. Culotta's approach excludable. That is particularly so, given that each of these studies, like Dr. Culotta's, evaluated inauthentic behavior by assessing statistical anomalies in engagement metrics. None of these articles suggest that no method for detecting inauthentic activity on social media has yet been validated, or that the social media data used by Culotta is totally inadequate for the task. Instead, taken together, these studies demonstrate that identifying inauthentic behavior through engagement anomalies, whether through cross-metric inconsistencies, temporal spikes, or coordinating voting, is not only feasible, but an established approach. Thus, Dr. Culotta's methodology for identifying cross-metric inconsistencies as markers of inauthentic behavior is comfortably grounded within the analytical approaches recognized in this field and sound under Rule 702. Although Dr. Culotta, at the very least, that is the case here. Defendants' argument that Dr. Clutter's TikTok and Reddit analysis must be excluded because they are not clones of analysis previously conducted is out of step with what is required. Rule 702A permits an expert to share their scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge in assisting the trier of fact. As noted, Dr. Culotta has an esteemed background not only in statistics and computational methods, but with respect to social media networks. In reliance on that expertise, Dr. Culotta determined that the modality of the platforms he was reviewing allowed for assessment of meaningful anomalies tailored to the function of each platform. For TikTok, a video-based application often viewed by phone, Dr. Culotta determined that the modality of the platform would reveal anomalies based on extreme engagement, with comments including engagement going significantly beyond expected engagement with the parent post. For Reddit, a comment-focused platform, Dr. Culotta determined that meaningful anomalies would be best measured through extreme up or down voting those comments. And for YouTube, Dr. Culotta evaluated significant views and engagement in the comments based on his determination that such engagement would present indicia or not of inauthentic engagement. Dr. Culotta's decision, based on his expertise to assess statistical anomalies in top comment share on TikTok, comment scores on Reddit, and comments on YouTube, is well-grounded, admissible, and precisely what Rule 702 contemplates. Dr. Culotta's sentiment analysis on TikTok and Reddit is reliable. Defendants criticize Dr. Culotta's sentiment coding of TikTok and Reddit as subjective and unreliable, but sentiment coding is a standard practice in social media analysis, as Dr. Culotta testified and as is reflected in analogous research. Inter-annotator reliability exercises are very common in the field, performed anytime a researcher produces a new dataset to add validity. I feel like my mouth is going numb now. Defendants do not identify any missing information that renders Dr. Culotta's coded non-reproducible or verifiable. They identify only one example of a coding by Dr. Culotta where they disagreed with the coding itself, which is already accounted for in Dr. Culotta's disclosed 80% reliability rate. Given that defendants have had access to Dr. Culotta's dataset for months, their inability to claim more than a single coding error is telling. Unable to pinpoint any specific fault with Dr. Culotta's coding, defendants attempt to undermine the randomly selected sample of 300 by slicing and dicing the entire dataset in mathematically unsupportable ways. To do so, they cut nearly 2/3 of the 300 post sample reflecting agreement between the coders. That is, they cut out 78.1% of the agreement between the coders to conclude that the intercoder reliability falls below 50%, and thus that there is a 50-50 chance Dr. Culotta coded the sample wrong. But by removing cases of agreement, defendants artificially depress the overall agreement rate in illogical and unsupported ways. Interesting. So they're basically saying that Wayfarer suppressed the results by removing certain agreements. Okay. In fact, using defendants' own highly misleading method to compute the agreement rate between coders for instances in which neither annotator selected unsure unrelated, the agreement is near 90%. Specifically, in the sample of 300 posts reviewed by a second coder, there are 59 posts for which neither reviewer coded the post as unsure unrelated, meaning that each reviewer either coded the posts anti-lively, pro-lively, or pro-Baldoni. Among these posts, both reviewers agreed on the sentiment 53 out of 59 times. Thus, agreement between coders is actually higher when distinguishing among anti-lively, pro-lively, and pro-Baldoni comments. Defendants are also wrong that Dr. Culotta's Reddit analysis cannot be trusted because it lacks second-level sentiment coding. Single coder approaches are deployed in peer-reviewed literature. That approach is more than sufficient here, as defendants have failed to identify even a single example of a Reddit post they consider to be coded inaccurately. Perhaps more importantly, Dr. Culotta's outlier findings as to Reddit do not depend on sentiment coding, which merely provides additional context for his quantitative analysis. Only after Dr. Culotta identified anomalous activity via comment score did Dr. Culotta code the sentiment, providing contextualization of statistical spikes observed in the data. Such observations are appropriate, and in any event, Dr. Culotta's Reddit analysis stands independent of the observations made in those 4 paragraphs of his report. Right. Dr. Culotta's TikTok analysis of more than 1,800 videos and Reddit analysis of an entire subreddit is reliably based on a comprehensive dataset. Defendants argue that Dr. Culotta's TikTok and Reddit datasets are insufficient based only on the premise that other studies have conducted analysis of larger datasets. But Dr. Culotta's datasets were robust and complete collections from available data. Far from selective and skewed, the TikTok dataset included all available videos responsive to a broad hashtag query of hashtag Blake Lively, hashtag Justin Baldoni, hashtag It Ends With Us, and hashtag It Ends With Us movie from July and August 2024. Dr. Culotta's Reddit dataset was the entirety of the Faux Moi subreddit across a 4-month period. These census-style data collections on significant scale permitted him to conduct a robust statistical analysis. That is all that Rule 702 requires. Dr. Culotta's YouTube analysis is reliable. Dr. Culotta analyzed the Little Bump interview on YouTube by querying the YouTube API for all 34,486 comments left on the video and determining that bully-related terms appeared in only 14 comments before the tag suggestion on August 14th, 2024. But they did appear, which is quite key, because people could have looked at those comments and gone, yeah, do you know what? Now I've watched it, I agree with you. She is a bully. And then you get an explosion of comments. But rapidly increased thereafter, amounting to over 1,700 comments using bully-related terms. Defendants argue that Professor Culotta's analysis is unreliable because Dr. Maislin finds that same number of social media users called Lively a bully in the months prior to the alleged retaliation campaign. But Dr. Culotta's testimony does not depend on the absence of that terminology in that pre-retaliation period. Instead, his testimony focuses on the dramatic increase in volume and proportion of the word bully in YouTube comments before and after the tag suggestion on August 14th, occupying a significantly increased share of top comments. Dr. Culotta's observations reflect meaningful assessments of the sharp increase of such anti-Lively terminology that appeared on this specific YouTube video almost immediately after tag sent the video to Wallace for amplification. I mean, I still don't understand how it can be called a smear campaign. Right? Maybe I'm just missing something here, but the crux is that she's not happy that people kind of said, "Hey, look, here's a video of her, conducting an interview, being a complete asshole." If it was a public thing. It was literally a publicity interview to promote a movie. And guess what? Lively was an asshole in it. There's a bit of a theme here, isn't there, really? That's all I'm taking from that. At the end of the day, if you don't want to look bad, don't act bad. But I think it's wild. She's not saying that Wayfarer have created falsities or new content that make her look bad, that she did not participate in. She is complaining that her own shitty behavior, for us all to see in high definition, is, making her look bad because people are pointing to it and going, "Oh my God, look. Yeah, okay, they're boosting it." You know, fine. Is that a smear campaign? I don't know. I just don't get it. And I don't see how it can do the tens of millions of pounds of damage, hundreds of millions of pounds of damage that she's claiming. In fact, I would not be surprised if she's claiming damages for her husband under the guise of, you know, her. I don't believe it. She was never worth that amount of money over the span of 20 years. So how is she in over the span of the future 5 years going to lose so much fucking money? Like, I'm off my soapbox again now. Defendants argue that Dr. Culotta's analysis is unreliable because he does not consider or rule out potential alternative causes for the increase in comment volume and bully-related terms following the tag suggestion. But Rule 702 does not require an expert to rule out every alternative cause. In fact, Dr. Culotta's report expressly identifies the publications that defendants cite: Reddit, BuzzFeed, and the Daily Mail, as well as the video's broader context, and defendants are free to raise such issues on cross-examination. More importantly, Dr. Culotta's YouTube opinion is not a causation analysis. It does not require showing, nor does it attempt to show, that the use of bully-related terms was originated by defendants in the first instance. Good, because they can't do that. Instead, the relevant inquiry is whether there are signs of inauthentic amplification after the alleged smear campaign period began, which Dr. Culotta identifies through observed patterns across the YouTube data that are consistent with coordinated manipulation. Dr. Culotta's testimony, we're not far off now, promise. Dr. Culotta's testimony is admissible because it will help the jury determine a fact in issue. Dr. Culotta's opinions as to TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube are not speculative and are admissible under Rule 403. Defendants maintain that Dr. Culotta's analysis across TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube are speculative in merely raising the possibility of a social media campaign or manipulation. Defendants are wrong. Dr. Culotta's assessments are certain to be helpful to the trier of the fact and will result in no unfair prejudice to defendants. First, it is not necessary for each expert to provide evidence establishing every element of a party's case. The fact that Dr. Culotta was not assigned to conduct a causal analysis and then proceeded to not conduct a causal analysis only bolsters the appropriateness of his testimony. Dr. Culotta can help the jury understand where and when evidence of inauthentic behaviour directed at Miss Lively appeared in August of 2024, while leaving for the jury to decide, based on other expert and fact testimony, whether it is more likely than not that defendant's untraceable social manipulation plan was the cause. The only case defendants cite to the contrary is Bozic. But there, the excluded expert was offering an opinion specifically that the phenomena at issue was the cause of subject injuries. This authority is inapplicable to Dr. Culotta, not offering a causation opinion. Indeed, Dr. Culotta's appropriately cabined testimony is the opposite of speculative. It is precise, reliable, and therefore admissible. At bottom, Dr. Culotta's testimony is not only non-speculative, but will assist the jury, as is required under Rule 702A, in understanding the online environment that defendants have claimed is organic despite their untraceable campaign. Oh, I said untraceable, and now we've seen it twice. Second, defendants seek to exclude Dr. Culotta's opinions given that he offers no known or potential rate of error that would allow a jury to give his testimony the appropriate weight, except to raise the spectre of potential inauthentic behaviour, inviting the jury to speculate. However, as discussed supra, Dr. Culotta performed multiple statistical tests. His opinions incorporate the findings of the statistical tests he conducted to assess whether observed differences are likely to have occurred by chance. Dr. Culotta's statistical analysis included p-values. Those confident, very small p-values serve to indicate that the top comment shares at issue were extreme outliers and functions as a built-in error rate. These p-values and z-scores are precisely the type of error rate information that Rule 702 contemplates, and Dalbert does not otherwise require experts to calculate error rates separately from the data analysis process. Third, Dr. Culotta's observations regarding the potential for removing manipulated content pursuant to Reddit's policies and the 30% decrease in post-upvote counts associated with an August 14th post sharing the Little Bump YouTube video were presented as part of a broader pattern of suspicious Reddit activity. Dr. Culotta's analysis rests on Reddit itself, which provides biannual transparency reports that disclose removal for content manipulation and addresses vote manipulation in particular. Dr. Culotta's observations provide important context on key Reddit evidence and is not a basis for exclusion. That said, exclusion of this component of Dr. Culotta's opinion does not impact his other Reddit conclusions, which stand on their own. Dr. Culotta's qualitative observations as to TikTok are helpful to the jury. Defendant's argument that Dr. Culotta's qualitative observations about patterns of repeated themes and language among top comments on TikTok are mere lay observations minimizes Dr. Culotta's qualifications and mischaracterizes the role of these observations. Analyzing the language of social media posts in connection with social network analysis and natural language processing has been a focus of Dr. Culotta's research for over 15 years. Rule 702A does not require credential in evaluating social media language because Dr. Culotta's expertise and knowledge directly support the challenged analysis. Any concerns regarding the patterns Dr. Culotta observes go to weight, not admissibility. Unlike in defendants' cases, Dr. Culotta's qualitative assessments as to TikTok permit him to contextualize his quantitative methodology. Dr. Culotta's qualitative analysis for TikTok is not made of free-floating observations. Instead, it is directly tied to his statistical analysis on the platform because the qualitative observations relate only to posts identified as having abnormally high top comment shares relative to the overall dataset. Such observations aid in the interpretation of the underlying quantitative anomalies he evaluates and would not be so obvious to the average juror, who knows little to nothing about online coordinated campaigns. Dr. Culotta's TikTok analysis as to both anti-Lively and pro-Baldoni observations are helpful to the jury. Defendants assert that Dr. Culotta's TikTok analysis improperly aggregates actionable and non-actionable conduct by including pro-Baldoni posts in his dataset, even though the court observed it was permissible for Baldoni to request that the digital team boost certain videos which he believed were favorable to his image. This argument confuses liability with admissibility. Dr. Culotta assesses indicia of inauthenticity, but he does not opine on whether a given post is actionable. The dramatic delta in top comment status of anti-Lively and pro-Baldoni on the one hand and pro-Lively and anti-Baldoni content on the other hand provides strong evidence as to the existence and trends apparent in inauthentic digital markers in August 2024. This is so, even though defendants will not be liable for steps that exclusively involve boosting pro-Baldoni content. Regardless, Dr. Culotta distinguishes between pro-Baldoni and anti-Lively content throughout his report. Thus, a jury can reach conclusions about the change in anti-Lively sentiment online without respect to the pro-Baldoni posts evaluated by Dr. Culotta. Dr. Culotta's reference to defendants' involvement is permissible. Defendants are incorrect that Dr. Culotta improperly summarizes case documents. Dr. Culotta uses a modest set of documents as a hypothesis to test against, for example, identifying relevant social media platforms to evaluate. In referencing the documents in connection with his independent statistical and related analysis, Dr. Culotta does just that. More practically, Dr. Culotta's analysis incorporating these documents will serve as a critical reference point for Ms. Lively's retaliation timeline. His report catalogues defendants' communications describing their plans to manipulate social media platforms, the very platforms Dr. Culotta then measured for anomalies. Dr. Culotta's conclusion as to other platforms is not speculative. Defendants argue that Dr. Culotta's conclusion that the presence of markers of inauthenticity in these three domains suggests that inauthentic activity was likely present in others is impermissibly speculative. But considerable prior research reflects that coordinated campaigns frequently operate across multiple platforms using shared content and tactics. This peer-reviewed research, Dr. Culotta's identification of indicia of manipulation across social media platforms, discussed by defendants, and defendants express discussions of manipulating content across various social media platforms, support Dr. Culotta's conclusion based on his expertise that such artificial manipulation may have happened elsewhere. So there we go. That's the end of Dr. Culotta. So as I said, the statistics on Shusty's video are actually, yes, visually, they are very helpful. It's just how are they going to get in? Because obviously, that I haven't seen Nicole Alexander's report, but I haven't, unless she had it to basically rebut and incorporate into her report and to rebut, this testimony, it's going to be not impossible, but more difficult to get it admitted at trial. Just because Lively's team will, object, throw every objection under the sun. I think this guy is not going to be excluded either, for the same reasons as Dina Maislin and Nicole Alexander. Some of his testimony may be limited. It's all down to Lyman at the end of the day. So these are just my best guesses. It's definitely not me saying, oh, this is definitely going to happen. I have no idea. No one has any idea. But if I was to hazard a guess, I don't think that any of the digital experts are getting excluded. There's a bit hit and miss, I guess, with experts such as, Anne Fromholz, Michael Robbins, Jennifer Freyd, because of the dismissal of the sexual harassment claims and so on, and the failure to investigate the workplace claims. But yeah, sorry, I've got a really bad cold and I was kind of struggling there a little bit. So, and there were a lot of technical words. So yeah, I hope that's so we've gone through that. I hope that's informative. And I hope my opinion, again, it's absolutely no criticism. I'm really glad, it does disprove. But obviously it's got to be tested, both parties have got to analyze it and test it, it is interesting. It certainly, for me, it shows us what we already knew anyway. All right, guys. So the next video is Dr. Ashley Humphreys.